معتزبالله صالح, Lebanese scenarist and director. I was fond of acting and had a talent in writing scenarios from a young age, and I have an artistic side in a general view, and or as it's called, cinematographic directing. I started by realizing the image and the scene, and I loved translating a written script to a visual scenery. I used to write the script and improve it to become a film or play. I started by writing theatrical scripts to move on to cinema ones. I remember from the childhood the cool kids photos. I remember how I was that kid that tried to look like a director and get his friends to act on stage. I remember the theater professor laughing a lot, although he's a director of comedy, but he laughed a lot with our plays. It was a big world of comedy that's filled with hard times and how can I say this? Times that require big effort. I worked very hard to reach this stage, especially later on when I started working on film scenarios and directing. How would a 30-minute movie or a full-hour movie? I specialized in short films. I haven't done any long one till now. So this 30-minute movie, we take into consideration the work and effort needed to write the script, create the story, making the scenario, shooting, and editing it as well. So this needs a lot of work and effort and staying up all night for it. So it was sort of a hard childhood. It became harder by the years. My parents were the premier supporters. My mother and father liked how I presented. They stood by me a lot, and they supported me in my work, my performance, and sometimes criticized me. For example, don't do this or that. My father often used to work with me in production, like, Dad, what should I do here for production services, and how could I save money here to enhance another field when I'm working as producer? He used to manage my work. My mother also supported me a lot in the field of conversations, scripts, and giving her opinion on such matters. I studied the Arabic language at the Lebanese University, and I majored in it. I have a certain touch in writing poetry, thoughts, and stories. While I was directing was only a hobby, but I proved it by time with the researches and academic studying of directing and the world of audiovisuals. Since then, I started gradually improving in my field and aiming to attain the biggest number of experiences that I could make use of, whether from directors or people concerned in Lebanese cinema. I tried as much as I can to get out of the field of theater, though I loved it a lot and I learned it since the beginning. But I moved towards the visual realm after a funny incident that happened during school days, when my social studies teacher asked me to do a PowerPoint presentation about a certain social case. So I filmed one, and it was the first time I held a camera. So I filmed the case. It was about drug abuse, so I did a short movie, a real amateur one. I filmed it and got my friends to act in it. And I started off by, it was a very good, and it got journalistic attention. I don't know how they knew, but it got their attention. Yet I liked the filming experience and continued until I reached the 8th work, which will be soon released. What encouraged me at the start was my ambition to do what I like, or what I like to do, my favorite profession. Also, there's reliance on God and persistence in work and ambition to get the job done. and of course parents, friends, and all the people who encouraged me and supported me, whether in school or my teachers, whom used to support me a lot to continue on this route that I have started to walk on. So these were the supporters. I also enjoy challenging myself in general, and used to say to myself that I can't do this, yet I try to do it and I'd succeed. And I'd say, if it won't work, I'll make it work. I would fix and do challenging matters to the maximum, like what Imam Ali, peace be upon him, would say, if you fear a matter, then fall in it. So that was the start. At first, the parents and the house, religious and pious, if we could say, atmosphere does give support. The latter gives the child's education and raises him on virtuous matters. That's on one hand. While on the other, there were scouts and youth activities that used to participate a lot in my life, which helped me understand the identity of the sect and Islam's identity in general, and the deep love for or the passion, if I could say, that led me towards the understanding of this religion and realizing dogmatic and existentialist secrets and its religious understanding. And that's one side, and on the other side, the tale of Ahlul Bayt helps a person to understand life and to go forward in it. If we want to give examples, in the school of Ahlul Bayt, there's the words of Imam Ali alone would be enough to raise a virtuous generation. Those alone, aside of the Imam's words, were taking an Imam out of 12 or one out of entire school of Ahlul Bayt, or the Prophet, peace be upon him. So from this point and religious education that I was a big follower of, whether by understanding clerics' explanations, I love to be knowledgeable. It's normal. It's a normal human behavior since childhood. We like to be knowledgeable. So from this point, I went into religious and dogmatic lifestyle. And there was a specific person that passed by in year 61 Hijri, whom is Imam Hussein, peace be upon him. I learned a lot from him and took several morals, and these latter helped me reach this stage. Even if I work as a cinema director or something that's not religiously affiliated, but I took a lot of lessons from this school and value several matters that happened in my life. Of course, the first time I landed at Al-Najaf airport, if we could say, the feeling changed a bit. I mean, I don't know how to describe it, but I felt as if I'm being hosted by Ahlul Bayt. So what do you think happened when I reached Kerbala? The road to Kerbala was pretty much like a road filled with passion. So I would reach the shrine of Imam Hussein, peace be upon him. So how would you think I felt when I saw the dome or got down from the bus? I went down from the bus, I remember, to join the march a few kilometers from the shrine. So when I saw the dome, it was an indescribable image, truly indescribable. It was totally amazing and very beautiful. I didn't get affected at first if I'm talking emotionally, but it's the thought that a person was crying over Imam Hussein since childhood. We remember Ashura. We remember the tragedies of that Ahlul Bayt passed through at that time, especially on the 10th of Muharram in year 61 Hijri. The readings I did and understood, I tried to dig in thoroughly in its meanings, so I would attach it to the real world. And this is Kerbala that we talk about, and this is Imam Hussein. He's buried here, and since we were kids, we'd cry over him, and we are inspired by him, and we have him as an idol. It was a mixture of emotions, and I mean, there's a feeling of shock and reverence, a mixture of sadness and joy. So it was a mixture of emotion at that time. Of course, now the Imams of Ahlul Bayt are an educational institute by itself, a very important one. It's a philosophical school of thought at the big picture. Before they are a religious school, a school that teaches life, teaches a person how to live. It contains what pleases God and what pleases oneself and what pleases one's ambitions. Eventually, he'll have to achieve it by being mature and aware of his actions and how to live his life, and primarily he needs to be very virtuous by dealing with people with virtues, with a tactful way with others. So this philosophical, ethical school that has different methods of action, from morals to, we can say that there are several interconnected categories which lead to humane formation, a humane philosophical school. When I first started with cinematic drama, I placed a word in a bracket, instructive. I consider, and this is a thing I've said in previous interviews, that if I want to do a meaningful movie, I wouldn't waste my time on meaningless matters, although it would make some profit. But I wouldn't do any project that wouldn't fit the name I've made for myself, nor my thoughts. I am the type of directors in Lebanon that would fight hard. I might fire the producer because this is my idea and I don't want to change it. People would say that this would damage others' interests. Sometimes that's how the producer would think. He would have certain interests with other people. I shouldn't get close to that in my work, and that's wrong. But no, I'm the type of person that I will follow up on an issue and I would attack and criticize because I don't like immorality in the society. So I would say anything immoral in the society, I'd love to fix it. And this is the religious aspect of my work, by calling for virtues and prevention of vice. So when I say that my movie Losing Point is a movie about drugs, so when I say that drugs are bad for your health, it is very bad and prohibited. Thus, all of my movie tackle religiously taboo issues, thus I shed light on them. Primarily drugs, we say that drugs affect the brain and create problems and detaches from reality, etc. So some people wouldn't enjoy banning drugs because it gives them certain income. I said that I want to face the issue of drugs even if the producer doesn't want to. Although the producer salutes JAD organization because they're with the idea of fighting drug abuse. I worked with several sects in Lebanon, such as our fellow Christian brothers. I salute them all, my Christian friends. And I want to talk about something in common between Christianity and Imam al-Hussein in my own point of view. Muslims, Shiites, Sunnis, Druze. I worked with several sects in Lebanon while working with them. I've found that Islam interconnects and aims for the same purpose. It has several sects and thoughts, yet all of them aim for virtues and prevention of vice. Our religions call for that. like drugs and like steroids in my movies in the goal of dreams. Steroids are taboo. They affect health, and God said in the Quran that he says that one shouldn't hurt himself, prohibits self-harm. So from the start, I had this instructive project in a religious aspect. It's a religious matter primarily. I'm helping my society. How can I achieve that? I may give them a verse of the Quran or a story. I would write a novel that would have the Imams of Ahlul Bayt. But if I do so, our generation wouldn't understand this. Not that they wouldn't know, but wouldn't go forward to read a book. Unfortunately, this is a widely spread and bad phenomenon in my own point of view. So through the movie, a thing everyone would love, I would direct the thoughts, this vast amount of thoughts towards the receiver, so that the latter would understand and attain it in an easy manner, especially if he was youth. Between Imam al-Hussein, peace be upon him, and Christianity in general, I have several Christian friends that we work together. I would place something concerning Imam al-Hussein, in my opinion, certain verses about Imam Hussein. So I'd find that Eli writing, "Oh Hussein," it's amazing and wonderful that Christians think in a way that not in a dogmatic way concerning Hussein, but in the story that happened with Imam Hussein, peace be upon him, in Kerbala, from a humanitarian point of view. And this is what we should do and think, so we know humanitarianly what happened with this great person that suffered from this epic. So they would see that they view Kerbala as a humanitarian issue that affects them, and they'd cry for him. And of course, there's a contact between myself and my friends in this matter. We talk a lot about the idea of there's this person who's the grandson of the Prophet in a certain situation at a certain time, at the 10th of Muharram, 61st Hijri, was besieged and banned from drinking and eating, banned from the least surviving matters, and his family suffered from that as well. Nevertheless, and the people who faced him and the 30,000 person army know that they face a 71 person who stood by Imam Hussein at that time. Person could be secular, but he's seeing this story from a humanitarian point of view. He would say that why? What has he done for them? He didn't accept to give allegiance to Yazid at that time. Why would the allegiance be forced? So a person would become wiser and start thinking of other issues. Imam Hussein, peace be upon him, didn't leave my thoughts ever since I've started my artistic work. At first in theater, I did several plays that embody the epic of Kerbala, primarily the play We Give You Our Oath. It talks about, in general, the point of view of children towards Hussein's infant. How people would give condolences to that infant. It's an issue that could be done in theater. And how would children view Al-Qasim, whom was assassinated, but did not die in battle, because he was tying his shoelace and one of the damned killed him. How would they see these tragedies of Kerbala? How would they be affected? How would they see these great people as role models and live inside of them? I later worked in an artistic Ashura panorama It also talks about Imam al-Hussein's Ashura on an audiovisual level. Ever since he went out of Medina and headed towards Kufa, then he stopped at Kerbala due to roadblock. At first, the play we give you our oath. I was around 12 years old. I was at elementary school or high school. I wrote it and directed it. I didn't come up with the story. It's something that really happened. It talks about Ahlul Bayt and their epic, but it wasn't my style. I rewrote it with my teachers, whom I salute, the ones who taught me at high school. They helped me in proofreading the script, and then we acted it. And there were a lot of kids showing up and watching it. It was a kids' play. You wouldn't believe that teachers and the educational staff started crying. I was happy with the play because the moral was received by the kids and adults. And especially adults, though it was a kids' play. I remember I started saying to the teachers that I made you cry. It was the first work for Al-Hussein, peace be upon him, on stage. I remember that we made everything up from nothing. They were panoramic stuff. They became like acting tools, and we embodied the infant and so on. And finally we made something that affected people. It's a morale eventually. When we say that Kerbala is a morale and a tear, it's true. And it's a morale more than a tear. The morale that makes you reach the tear. The kids and educational staff at the school were totally affected by the play, and it was played at several places and on different time. And then I moved to work on vocals, and I had friends who had nice voices in singing and chanting. By the way, I used to have a nice voice when I started, but I didn't work on that much and went towards directing, so I didn't work on my vocals. I used to chant when I was young and do majlis aza at home, which was on a yearly basis. And after that, I started working on vocals with my friends, which became a work in theater. A play that talks about Ashura and Imam Hussein on stage, almost like Latmiya, but in a theatrical way. So I used to train my friends. After I became more professional and experienced. And one of them became a chanter. We worked more on vocals and its improvement, and later on I worked on something audio visual that relates to Imam Hussein. So I worked on a video clip concerning Imam Hussein, peace be upon him, and certain scout activities, not on a professional level, but something like reports and video clips. So I worked on a project at Sayyidah Khawla Shrine. Then we produced and participated in panoramic scout works about Imam Hussein. And how would we salute Kerbala through our acted and filmed project. And at the end of that phase, I started writing about Imam Hussein. I wrote poems a lot. And I wrote poems, not books. Most of my writings were poetic towards Imam Hussein. I don't know why I didn't write anything else. The amount of poems and thoughts I had, I have a book about that. We'll talk about it later. Were about Imam Hussein. I'm preparing a book about Imam Hussein. This is my second one. The first one is called Tariq as-Saada and talks about happiness and how to achieve it in my own point of view. The Imam Hussein book is problematic. From 1,400 years ago until now, there was a person called Hussein bin Ali, peace be upon him. Every Ashura or every 1st of Muharram, people cry over him and remember him for 10 days and sometimes 40. These 40 days are as if he actually martyred today. But why do we cry all of these years over him? This is the book that I'm preparing, inshallah, in the future. It might be my doctorate thesis at the Lebanese University. You see, in Kerbela thought, or who dives in what happened in Kerbela and Hussein at that time, realizes that whatever we do is little in front of what he has done and gave for us. He says that all what we have is from Ashura. It's true. All what we have is a virtue of Ashura, of a virtue of Karbala and what has happened. I have these morals for myself. I mean, I work in art and cinema and matters unrelated to religion in general, but I remember that I have a school called Imam Hussein and Karbala. How would someone work on himself in order to have these great people as role models? I have a dream to do a unique movie about Al-Taf epic. Sadly, our society, I have not seen, not Lebanon or Iraq or the Arab world, but in the global society, I have not seen any work done concerning Karbala that is truly worth the issue. I haven't seen artworks. You know, there are great series like Sayyida Maryam or Prophet Yusuf, big Iranian and Arab artworks. I haven't seen any artwork concerning Imam Hussein or Karbala that deserves to be called a successful series or movie or artwork, sadly. I want to do so. I have an ambition to do so later on. I have an ambition to do a movie that speaks Karbala in every detail and talks about everything. A huge artwork that would equal the idea and would be received by the viewer easily.
هاي للإمام علي كتبتها تحت ابنة الإمام علي عليه السلام بالعراق. يا أيها الصبي حل بدو علي في الفضاء أهلا ما إذا تابني نوم الليالي ما إذا استسكرت يوم التالي ما إذا حملت القرآن وقفت قرأت فضائلا عنه هز جبالي ما سببه ما حبي في دمي كيف لأقلامي كيف لأقلامي تحكي حيدا تنفض الأخبار وتعجز الأمثال هنا في حفرة العشق يرصد قلبي إنه الإحساس والأقوال يا أيها الذي يفصل عشقك لا أنعيك لا أذكر ما جرى فيك لا أذكر